need is a chair. I'm using a kitchen chair. I think a chair that has arms would work fine too. I haven't tested any of this out on a rolling chair, so if you're using a chair in your office, just be careful that it doesn't roll around on you. This workout is designed if you're sitting at a desk all day and you just want to move around a little bit, get some stretching in, or if you want to do some stretching and you're not comfortable getting up and down from the floor. So we'll just start out sitting. Make sure your feet can go onto the floor. Maybe take a shoulder roll so shoulders come forward, up, back, and down. You can relax down. Let your hands relax in a comfortable position, palm up or palm down, and just take a moment to close your eyes. Take a breath and feel if there are any parts of your body that don't welcome the breath, if they're a little bit tight. That's okay, just pay attention to it here. We'll start out our movement with the head. So I'm reaching up through the crown of my head, trying to be really tall, and then I'm letting my chin fall forward and the crown of my head moving back. You don't have to take your head all the way back if that's not comfortable for your neck. We'll just do maybe 10 of them. We're still breathing. Once you get to that last one, we'll find length through the crown of the head again. And I'm going to turn and look over one shoulder. You can turn and look with my eyeballs all the way to that side, back to center, other side. We'll take 10 of these too. We're not forcing it, just letting the head turn whatever amount feels comfortable. And bringing it back to center, we'll then put the forward and back along with the side to side. So if I start out with my chin forward, I'm going to roll one ear to the shoulder, head goes back however much is comfortable, other ear to the shoulder, and forward. If your head doesn't like this backward position, you could also do these as a side to side rock. If you're making full circles, we'll do 5. This is my third one. And then we'll take it in reverse. As you're finishing up your last head roll, let's pause with one ear on the shoulder. I'm going to reach my right hand, opposite the ear that goes to the shoulder, out toward the floor. I like to reach through the heel of my hand. You could also reach out to your fingertips, whatever is more interesting. I sometimes get a little bit of a nerve glide through this arm, but nothing too intense. And feel free to move your head around as you do the stretch. See if you can find any other spots that might like the attention. If you want to add on to this a little bit, we're going to scoot slightly away from that extended arm, try not to fall off your chair, and then just wrap your fingertips underneath the bottom. I can kind of grab the top edge of this cushion or underneath onto the frame. And then once I've got just a little hook with my fingers holding on, I'm going to find that same ear to the shoulder. Feel free to move around again, it might be slightly different. And I'm leaning away from this hooked arm a little bit. That's Weasley. Hi, Weasley. You can hold these for as long as they feel comfortable. Again, we'll relax that. We'll take the same 2 on the other side. So reaching away with the hand first, dropping the ear to the shoulder. Feel free to move around to find a more interesting stretch. And if you want to try the variation on this side, we'll scoot away from the extended arm, hook the fingers under, and then keep leaning away. Next, let's take the arms out in front of us. If you're actually sitting at a desk, you might need to scoot back a little bit. So arms out in front, and I'm just gonna flick my fingers just like I've got water on them, and I'm flicking them. So I'll take maybe 10 of those flicks to the front and go fairly fast if it feels good. And we'll do the same thing out to the sides. And then we'll bring the arms up by the ears, still flicking. We'll bring them back to the front. Now I'm opening my fingers out wide away from each other and then closing them all in. About 10 of those. And we'll take them out to the sides. And arms up. And then let's do one more. Coming to the front, we'll do some wrist rolls. We'll just pick the first direction. And then reverse. I'm doing about 5. You can really scoop all the fingers in if that feels good. We'll do the same thing on the sides. First direction. Second direction. And then last one, arms up by the ears. First direction. And second direction. Good. Shake all that out. We'll take our hands together behind the head, elbows out to the sides. If it feels better to elbows closed in front of you, that's fine too. And then kind of like you do with the head, we're going to go forward and backward, side to side. Now we're thinking about moving the chest and the shoulders together. So if we just start out with sort of a cat-cow movement. So I round forward, I can tuck my elbows in toward my face, and then I'm going to come back upright and arch back and open. I'm going to turn my chair to the side so you can see this a little bit better. Let's do 5 of them going forward and back. So rounding forward, sit tall, arch back and look up. I can let my head rest in my hands as I go into this arched position so I'm not straining my neck. And only go as far as feels comfortable. And then we'll add some side-to-side movement there as well. So now I'll go forward to one side, arching back to the other side. And if it feels good, you can let your elbows fall open and pull forward as you round forward. Next time you're rounded forward, let's go the other direction. We're still breathing. As we finish up this last one, let's take it back one more time. I'm interlacing my fingers a little bit more now so I can really rest my head in my hands, thinking about pulling my elbows back and lifting my chest high. And breathe for a moment. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. And let that relax. Let's take one more thing from sitting, then we'll stand up. So I'm just going to start to say hi to the outside of my hip into my glutes. So I'm going to cross one ankle on top of my knee. If you feel like your knee is too high and it's not comfortable, you can also extend this leg on the floor a little bit so that my leg's a little bit lower. I like to flex my foot in this position. You can also point. I like giving the foot a job to do so the leg stays really active. And I'm thinking here as I sit about taking, this is my right hip, drawing it back and letting that same knee open toward the floor. If you don't feel a lot of stretch here, you can also fold forward, trying to keep the back flat so the crown of my head is reaching out and my sternum is reaching beyond my shin. We'll just hold here for a moment. I like to hold these leg stretches for about 30 seconds. You don't have to be still the whole time either. If you want to move around a little bit, feel free. We have about 15 seconds left here. Good. Bring it back up. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, options include extending the supporting leg if you want your leg to be a little bit lower. We're trying to encourage the hip to move back and the knee to move down. Sit really tall, especially if you're going to fold forward. and bring it back up. Great, let's come up to stand. So as we come up to standing, I'm gonna move my chair. It's braced against the wall under my counter here. You don't have to have your chair braced, but we're gonna be pushing into it a little bit. So if you feel like your floor is slidey, it might be a good idea. So I'm gonna take my right hand onto the back of the chair and my same side leg, the right leg, onto the chair with my friend Longbottom here. We're gonna take a little lunge. So I would start out with my hip over my standing leg and making sure that the other foot on the chair, my knee is stacked over my heel. Thank you, Longbottom. My knee is stacked over my heel. If I start to lean really far forward and my knee goes past my ankle, my toes, just go ahead and scoot your foot out a little bit further. So I can give myself more space to lean into the stretch by moving the foot that's on the chair. I can also move the leg that I'm standing on back a little bit, so now I can lean further forward. My heel usually starts to come off the floor because my Achilles are really tight, your heel might stay down. Most of the stretch here is in the front of the left hip in this case. So we'll hold here for about 30 seconds. You can keep your free hand on your hip, you can go on your knee, it can relax, whatever you want to do. And as I'm standing here and starting to pay attention to the finer details of this stretch, I'm thinking about pulling my right hip back a little bit so I'm not twisting, staying square to my chair. For our last little moment here, let's take the left arm, the free hand. It's going to come up by the ear, and I'm going to reach really tall through my fingertips and arch over to the side. So I'm getting a stretch all the way down that left side and a little bit through the outside of my left hip. You can bow it forward slightly, you can arch it back slightly, whatever feels the most interesting. And I've still got my hand on the chair for support. And we'll take that back up. I'm going to flex that foot and think about, again, squaring the hip. So if my right hip wants to come forward, I'm going to twist a little bit to draw it back, standing really strongly on my left leg. We're going to stand up really tall, hand on the back of the chair, and tilt slightly forward. If you find your balance is precarious at all for any of these, and you have a second chair or something like this counter that's available, you can give yourself another prop for your other hand. If you feel really comfortable here, you can fold further forward, just trying to get into the back of that right leg. Keep checking in as we hold here that this foot is still flexed. Often it'll sort of drift off. And then I'm still straightening my knee. I'm using my quads in the upper part of my leg to really find that active stretch. And then we'll come up, find your balance again, and we'll switch sides. So same thing on my other side. Now I have my left hand on the chair, my left foot on the chair, and we'll find that lunge to start. Before we go into our side stretch, check again that the left hip is moving back. Now I'm going to reach up with my right hand, get tall toward the ceiling, and tilt a little bit to the side. Again, we're looking for a stretch that goes all the way down the right side. I feel it a little bit under my armpit. I feel it a lot in the outside and the front of my hip on this side. Remember to breathe. And we'll bring it back up. Find your balance, adjust your stance if you need to, and we'll straighten the leg that's on the chair. Foot is flexed, hips are square, stand really tall, and then if you'd like to fold forward on this side, you have the support of the chair, or your friend Dumbledore. Hey, Dumbledore. As you finish up this side hold, check again with the supported foot, the left foot, make sure it's flexing. My leg is engaged here. My standing leg is also engaged, so we're not letting the knee soften or collapse. And let's bring it back up. Our last stretch is for shoulders, one more shoulder stretch. So I've turned my chair so you can see the back here. If you don't have a flat back on the back of your chair, you can maybe be creative, figure out how this will work out for you. I'll show you a couple variations on this. So for the first one, I'm going to take my palms flat onto the back of the chair so I can think about pressing down. And then I'll take a few steps back so that I can find a line from my fingertips all the way up through my tailbone. If you feel like your hamstrings get in your way, if it's hard to fold forward, feel free to bend your knees. It doesn't make a difference because we're really focusing on the shoulders here. So my goal is to let my armpits open a little bit toward the floor, and I'm actively pressing down with my palms on the chair. It's like a little bit of resistance, so I'm not collapsing here. I feel this stretch mostly right in the bottom of my arm through my armpit. I have students who talk about feeling it more in their lats. As long as it feels good and comfortable with a good stretch, stay here. If you want a little bit less, you can always rise up slightly out of it. If you want a slightly more intense variation of the stretch, you can put your elbows on the back of the chair. I'm thinking about elbows as close together as I can get them, and palms pressing actively into each other. So I have to get my head under my arms first, and then walk those elbows super close together. Again, feel free to bend your knees if your hamstrings are in your way. For this variation, the thumbs come toward my upper back. Palms press together as I slowly extend the elbows, however far you want to go, and slowly bring them back in. You'll probably find a really interesting spot somewhere along the way. Feel free to stay there and breathe into it. And I would hold either of those variations for about 30 seconds if you haven't done that already. Thanks for stretching with me. If you'd like to show some support, leave me a tip. I am leaving these addresses here for tip jar. If you have any questions or ideas, or if something didn't work for you, if you were having a hard time balancing or having a hard time feeling the stretch, shoot me a message and let me know about it. Or if there are other things you'd like to see in videos, I'm happy to take requests. Take care, and see you soon.